All right, so quick question right now because it's about the I've seen a lot of topics circulating recently about especially in East Africa about bantu, and I think history. Some people say that you're not indigenous to this land, you're not indigenous to that, and this, and I think we can't call somebody that's African continent is his homeland is not indigenous. Is that correct? Especially like in the Somali, and I've seen some Somali, not a lot of them, no disrespect to the Somali that will know that they're African. Do you know what I mean? But that some of the other Somali I've heard from them, they talk about this a lot.
So the thing with the whole Bantu thing is that originally,
Yeah.
Bantu was a linguistic classification, nothing more, nothing less. The word Bantu comes from the Zulu word Ubuntu, which means person or human. It is also the same as in the Hausa language when you say mutung, which means human, people, person. So, and also, even in Latin, you would find some inscriptions in Old Latin, Abantium, which means an Ethiopian. So it even goes back to the Old Latin that the designation of an African was Bantu. That was a designation of an African. Now, from a linguistic perspective, not all Africans are classified as Bantu. Keep in mind, Bantu is a linguistic classification, nothing to do with race, because we have some people who are quote unquote look like Bantu, but their language is not of the Bantu family. And there are some people, on the other hand, look very much like Bantu, but their language is not, and vice versa. So I've noticed that issue with many people in East Africa when they refer to some of the indigenous African tribes from where they live, they refer to them as Bantu in a derogatory way. In particular, you made mention of Somalia.
Yeah,
Yes.
for example, in Somalia, I've heard many in the speakers' corner, other places, is being used derogatively towards something that not good, especially also the word Jareer. Like the word Jareer, as what I've mentioned, probably came from the Jarawa people in Asia. But I also see that as being used derogatively towards those people. As an outsider, I don't really understand that. So I wanted to get a picture of this. I wanted to get a Somali person in here, but I probably don't want to be on camera.
Yeah, well, so you settle with me. I'm an African.
Yeah.
You're not an African. So as an African, from my experience, I would tell you that because I travel a lot in Africa, so I will tell you that in most parts of Africa, there is no problem with Bantu or calling people Bantu, seen in a derogatory way. But I can understand when someone says this happens in Somalia. Obviously,
if you go to South Africa, it's not.
it's not derogatory.
Yeah, but mainly in that
in that eastern part, even in Eastern Africa.
The Horn of Africa.
Exactly. Even in Eastern Africa, it won't be a problem in, say, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda. So it's a problem in Somalia, whereby the Cushitic majority, the Cushitic stock, see the Bantu minority as a lower class, kind of like a caste system type of thing. But even so, you would find among the Jareer, like the Mai, they are Cushitic. That's their language. But people think that phenotypically speaking, they look Bantu. But that's where we have a problem, because there's no such thing as look Bantu. No such thing.
But you got that. There's many Cushitic groups as well. They don't look like also certain groups, but they look like any other person in the African continent as well.
Exactly.
I think I've checked it, and I've seen there's many groups that in Ethiopia actually they speak Cushitic language or Cushitic language.
Exactly.
But when you look at them, there's no different in anyone in the African continent.
First of all, these are just
West Africa.
these are just biblical terms. There's no such thing as a Cushitic person or a Cushitic look. These are biblical terminologies. Right. There was no such person ever as Kush So, you know, we need to go back to that before we get a grounding in these things.
All right, all right. So then I'd love to get a Somali on a topic next time. But the thing is, especially someone that who's got different views
Yeah.
than you are. But I think then what's the solution then to these kind of stigma all the time has been going on towards different people? So should we say those people that actually, because you said Kushitics, and I've heard different opinion from other people who say those people actually not even Kushitics, they're actually now silent. Some of them came as, you know, through the Ottoman Empire, the British Empire, and also through some Southeast Asian and all of that. So, and people say no, they disagree with me. They say that they're not Kushitics.
Yes, I've heard that argument before. Some people say that many of the so-called mixed-race people across the Horn of Africa emanated from the subcontinent, i.e. India. So they came up from India, they mixed up with the indigenous...
Yeah, they've said most of the Dravidians,
Yeah.
you know, the melanated Dravidians,
Yeah.
the darker skinned Dravidians in
Yeah.
Asia,
Yeah.
mainly those people, they also be recruited into, you know...
Into the army
through
and
the,
stuff.
yeah,
and
through the empires, the British empires,
Yeah,
the Ottoman
that's
empires,
how they got
all
there.
those empires that invaded Africa.
Yeah, that's very possible. It's not an impossibility. However, on record, officially, when you do the knowledge, when you go to these parts of Africa, do the field work, they would tell you that they have always been that way. So I don't have any issues with that. What I have issues with is the discrimination.
Yeah.
And the discrimination, as someone who is a Pan-African, as myself, I would say that marginalization, the only way to deal with marginalization is integration. So if they're dealing with, if they're treating the Jareer or the Somali Bantu and all other Bantus in a continent that they're indigenous to in a bad way, then the only way to deal with that is through integration. And the only way to do integration is through education. Unless people are educated, they want to hold on to some parochial sentiments. They want to hold on to some sentimentalities. They want to hold on to some emotions of this is my culture, this is what I did, this is basically the glory of the people rather than the glory of the individual. And that's what we see with so-called far-right white supremacists in this part of the world as well. Yeah. You would see people who, as an individual, they have no value. They have nothing to add to the table. So they try to hold on to a glory of a past nation, of race, which is oftentimes a mythology. Like people who would say, oh, but we were Vikings. Yeah, but you're not a Viking, bro. You can't fight. You can't do anything.
We were. Yeah.
Exactly. So what I'm trying to say is, oftentimes when people are not educated, they have no value, nothing to bring to the table. They try to hold on to some glory of some race. So even in Africa, integration is the only thing that can deal with these things.